Hey guys, before we get into things, please subscribe to our channel and make sure you turn on notifications so you know every time we post. And also, head over to our social pages, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram so you can see clips and chat wrestling with us. But now, let's get into the video. All right, Snowden, you're on the clock.
I am on the clock. This is C2 Wrestling. We're coming at you with a NXT No Mercy review. I ain't looking at the camera. I'm looking at my phone. We're in the middle of a football draft, a fantasy draft right now as well. So we're going to make do through this video. This is going to be fun. I'm literally on the clock trying to make my pick right now. I'm running out of time, actually. With that said, I'm going to hand it off to you so I can think a little.
Yeah, and funny enough, we actually have back-to-back picks in our draft as,
Yep.
would have worked out best if we were, I don't know, one of us at the top of the draft, the other one at the bottom. But we're here not to just do live reactions to our draft picks, but we're here to talk about NXT No Mercy. As Snowden picks the player that I was going to pick, that's okay. Whatever. That's fine. I'm now on the clock. He just took Jalen Waddle. I
It's
was going
funny
to take Jalen
because
Waddle.
I actually also, before we started this video, lied. I said I was going to pick somebody else. And I did.
Well, yeah, I don't need him, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like this draft
True.
right now at all. I'm gonna make this pick. This is gonna be a chalk pick, but whatever.
Let's see it.
Bum. I'll take the chalk and take Cooper Cup.
Okay, that's weird.
Um,
I got his associate, we'll call it, in Puka Nakua. So
yeah.
look at us.
And Snow's back on the clock, but while he's on the clock, we'll start talking NXT. Another
Absolutely.
great pay-per-view. Snowden makes his pick. Now I'm back on the clock. Great weekend for WWE. Even with
Yes.
the predictability, both shows delivered for me.
Both shows delivered, yes. And again, we've said this countless times for only having a channel for 3 or so weeks, 4 weeks, however you want to call it at this point. Like, predictability can be good. It really is not always a bad thing. Not every show, and also not every show has to or should have a surprise, a this, a that. And like, yeah, we had Giulia tonight. That's a surprise. To an extent, we all kind of saw that coming, but still, it's new, it's fresh. Not every event needs something crazy, though. Predictability is just fine in wrestling.
Yeah, so we got to talk the main event. We will get into Giulia's debut, which again was a bit expected, but nice to finally have it happen. The main event, Joe Hendry challenges Ethan Page with Trick Williams as a special guest referee. Trick Williams gets distracted. Ethan Page low blow. Joe Hendry gets taken out with the ego's edge. Ethan Page retains. Then Pete Dunne comes out and takes out Trick Williams to end the show. I will say this might be a bit nitpicky, and this might be harsh because it feels like we just saw, all right, that show was just under 3 hours. The last 6 hours of WWE programming have been really good. So this is going to come off as a bit harsh. But I thought that ending was flat.
It was a bit flat, yeah.
Yeah. And again, it was predictable. I did not expect Joe Hendry to win the title. I even made a video about how Joe Hendry shouldn't win here. And if he's going to win the title, it should happen when they debut on the CW. It would be much bigger. It'd be a much better moment. This is the negative with the expected. A lot of times this weekend, the expected outcomes were happening and it was good and it still was enjoyable. I'm not saying this was bad, but this is the negative side of when the expected things happen. Sometimes it just doesn't really click and feel like that big of a moment.
Yeah, we had seen Ava said that the winner of Hendry Page will face somebody defending the title at the, I believe it was the first CW show.
Yep, going to Chicago.
Going in Chicago. And that's great. I like that a lot. I think they're leading up to another fatal four-way between Dunn, Trick, Ego, and Hendry, of course. I don't really see much of another avenue except maybe, I guess you could redo the Ego Trick singles match, but I don't know what their ultimate plan is. I guess they want to keep this title on Ego for a little bit. I do think Hendry winning the belt is maybe down the line going to happen. I think obviously the goal is to, at some point, get a TNA title on an NXT guy, an NXT title on a TNA guy, whatever, or vice versa. And it seems like it's coming soon. This didn't seem like the show was going to happen. I don't think anybody really expected Hendry to win here. The ending, little flat, yes, little flat. Pete Dunne coming out after the match, attacking Trick. Sure. Didn't even really need it, to be honest. Like we already get it. They have a feud ongoing. This is one of those matches. It was a good match. It really was. I thought it was a fine match. But they're just, again, predictability is fine. Wasn't a whole lot to this. This wasn't really, don't get me wrong, it's a great matchup. It is the title match. It's Joe Hendry. He's like the big thing going right now. But it wasn't really like the main event to me. I don't know. I had like more investment in Wesley versus Zachary Wentz and even Oba versus Tony D, which I don't even think Oba versus Tony D was a great matchup on paper. They made it work. It was a solid match, but I just love Oba Femi. Something about this Hendry versus Ego Trick special ref. We kind of knew the avenue. It didn't really have the hype to it that some of the other matches did.
Yeah, in the video that I made, I basically broke it down exactly how it seems to be playing out, where you have Hendry lose. I said maybe a Josh Alexander interference, which I thought was possible until Giulia was right before the main event. So I was like, all right, you're not going to get
Mm-hmm.
back-to-back surprises. You kind of want to space those out. So once that happened, I was like, all right, we're probably just going to get, a finish that isn't clean. And that's that, which is fine. It to me from day one has been very clear that the avenue is a fatal four-way, all four guys, especially I think the only thing that the Pete Dunne attack added was Ethan Page kind of talking to Pete Dunne and
Yeah.
almost feeling like threatened by him, which is a bit new. So I get it adding to that, but to me that's something that can just happen on NXT.
Yeah, I agree. Exactly. It could have happened on NXT. I mean, if they do rerun this Fatal Four Way, it's not a rerun. I guess it's not the exact same match, but we recently had a title change for the NXT title in a Fatal Four Way. But I guess it kind of is a little bit of a recall to the history of this Ego title run. Maybe they have a Fatal Four Way, and maybe the ending is even similar to the way the one ended with Shawn Spears and Javon Evans. Whether somebody loses the title, retains the title, who knows? But Joe Hendry is so over. You know, he's so big right now. I just don't want to see it die down before they really do something here. It seems clear that the likes of Joe Hendry and maybe Jordan Grace and maybe even Zachary Wentz at some point, who knows? There's some names that seem like they're WWE bound once the TNA contracts come up. And obviously, they're working together right now. But there might be a bigger picture for Joe Hendry. Maybe he isn't the one to get the title during the TNA run. Maybe he officially comes over before he wins the belt. Maybe they do something with the women and have one of the women win the title first. Who knows? Ego is great, though. I do want to say that. Ethan Page has been fantastic and an incredible addition to NXT. Well needed, too. In all honesty, there's some great talent down there, but man, they needed a heel, and they got it in Ethan Page.
Yeah, the main event scene was desperately needing Ethan Page, if we're being
Mm-hmm.
honest. When the call ups happened, I know Braun Breaker was going for the tag titles and had dropped it when he got called up. Ilya obviously had just dropped the title. There really wasn't anything left for him to do. Those were like the two main guys, and then obviously Carmelo as well. Those are three like cornerstones all called up pretty much at the same time. And those were three main event guys that it's like it was a massive blow to their main event scene, NXT title scene. When it comes to the championship, Trick Williams wins the title and it's like, oh, this is a cool moment. Ilya goes up. And then it's like, man, there really isn't a lot of guys for him to feud with.
Mm-hmm.
This is where Ethan Page has been so great, bringing him in and having the Trick Williams baby face, Joe Hendry. Obviously, we didn't expect this to blossom into it, but let's say it didn't. Let's say Joe Hendry isn't, you know, in the mix.
Yeah.
Ethan Page would still probably be NXT champion right now because he is what was needed for the brand. I don't think the Joe Hendry and TNA involvement has had any impact on what the future was with Ethan Page. Him winning the title, I think, was the right move. And him retaining the title, I think, was also the right move. I think there's still plenty of meat on the bone for Ethan Page to hold the title, but I do kind of expect him to drop it at one of these CW shows.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ethan Page is one of those guys that they can keep in NXT for a while and really help kind of build that roster. But man, he's main roster ready too. You can get him on that main show anytime soon, and he could be directly involved. He's great, man. Really have been loving what they've been doing with Ethan Page. Another guy I've really been loving, mentioned earlier, Obafemi. Maybe not as much direction. What do you do with a guy like that after retaining the title against Tony D? A good matchup, nothing on paper that was got to see Obafemi versus this guy for me. There are a little bit of two styles that did well, good match again, but don't really clash, I guess. Would like to see Obafemi against somebody a little bit fresh, maybe a style is a bit more fresh. Even if he's to go over, I think Obafemi versus Javon Evans would be an incredible matchup. But outside of somebody like that, what do you do with Oba? Where do you put him? Who takes that title off him? It's tough.
I don't see anybody taking the title off of him anytime soon, honestly. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think,
I agree.
you know, this guy's going to be the face of NXT and is going to be in the main event scene of the main roster. Like, this is once again, you watch him and you see it all. You see
Yeah,
that he has it. Like, you see the future, you see the big picture with him.
just drafting right now. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
yeah, yeah. And I'm up next. It's fine. I do think though, the saving grace and where there's a little bit less worry on his direction is having this TNA relationship. It could be anybody from TNA that gets in the mix now with Obafemi. And to be fair, he hasn't really been involved in this crossover. He hasn't really done anything. I do know Moose is about to face Nick Nemeth, so that matchup probably isn't likely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Hammerstone's tied up, but again, when you're TNA, who can you afford to have lose to him? I mean, there's people that you can have, but who makes sense?
Yeah,
So for his future, like,
it's your pick.
yeah, and I'm taking DeAndre Swift. Um, for his future, I don't think it's like as daunting because of the TNA outlet, but at the same time, I wouldn't be opposed to another main roster person coming down and facing him. I mean, those matches have
Yep.
all hit, and it's literally just it's the same thing we say about Gunther. It's about getting statistics. It's
Yeah.
about just adding heads to totem poles.
Yep.
What head do you want to add next?
Yeah, I agree. It really is with Oba. What head do you want to add next? I think Oba is the kind of guy that obviously could win the NXT title at some point, but it doesn't need to happen yet. He's incredible, but they even mentioned it tonight 21 matches on TV. Still pretty green. You can ride out a North American title run for a while with this guy. Hell, if there's ever been somebody to have the longest running title run of whatever belt he's holding, it's a guy like Obafemi. And it really is a good way to create a star off the back of, runs like Wesley had, things like that, long, great matches, title runs. You got a brand new guy that is unstoppable, undefeated. Again, not everybody can be undefeated, but Oba might be your guy to give that kind of run to. Um, Thank you for stealing my pick, but it's actually really unfortunate. I'm not gonna lie. That really puts a That's it. I want Obafemi to face you next. Okay. um, Obafemi, I was thinking about it during the match tonight. I don't know if there's anyone else to take the title off him except a main roster superstar.
Yeah, and I know we've mentioned it before. I'm not opposed to Obafemi doing the Keith Lee and holding both titles. It's, it hasn't been done since Keith Lee, I believe. Him winning the NXT championship while being the North American champion, I have zero issue with that. Like
Yeah.
this. And at the same time, I'm not opposed to, even if he doesn't win the NXT championship or whatever, I'm not opposed to him winning the NXT title and vacating the North American championship. Like, this is a guy, I know we have talked about it till we're blue in the face. The overdoneness of undefeated streaks and going to the main roster undefeated and all these things. It is very overdone. But if there's ever a person who you can do it with, who it makes sense with, and who deserves it, it's a guy that looks like $1 million and literally, I mean, you said it, like 20 TV matches in, and when he was 5 TV matches in, we were like, this guy's going to main event WrestleMania one day.
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
many people do we say that about?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think we're on record saying this in a recent video that Obafemi versus Josh Briggs at Stand Up was a triple threat match at Stand and
Yeah.
Deliver. That was maybe the best match in ring all weekend,
Yeah.
and Obafemi was a big part of that match. It's incredible to see a guy so good in the ring, on the mic, the look, the ability. He is the next big thing, truly. It's interesting to think about who could be the one to dethrone him. He is the kind of guy that you don't have lose if he's going to lose in a triple threat or a ladder or a cage or something. You give somebody the rub and have them beat Oba. Even if it's a main roster guy. Again, I think he's okay to have an undefeated streak for a while, but it doesn't have to last forever. He could strip himself of the title, things like that. But if you're going to have somebody on the main roster beat him, as the New Day would ask, who?
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 Would it be someone that I steal with you with my next pick?
Yeah, it might actually be Ramondre Stevenson. Yeah.
So back on the card, Axiom and Frazier regain the NXT tag titles. Awesome match.
Yeah, great matchup.
Awesome opener.
I will say, I do got to cut you off just to say,
thank you.
I need. Well, you did steal my picks. That's payback. I think we're both going to agree here. I need more Spanish flies.
All right, let's carve out a quick 30 seconds here. Spanish flies are cool. I remember the first time I saw Frankie Kazarian hit one in TNA years ago. I thought it was the
all drops.
thing
Yeah,
ever.
yeah.
It's overdone now.
It's overdone.
And like,
yes.
all right, it is cool seeing Andre chase someone that you don't really expect to hit a Spanish fly, but I think it was NXT's last pay-per-view. They hit like 2 or 3 Spanish flies in the same show. It's like, oh my God, this is basically like a top rope suplex at this point.
Yeah. I'm kind of crapping on it, but I don't honestly hate it in this match because it is a move that Axiom does a lot, even though it's overdone. It's a part of his move set, and it was a little bit of like a callback thing, trying to get Andre to do it. It's like a little bit of a twist up on it. They didn't do it again in another match on the show like they did last time around, But it's just one of those moves. Little overdone. Everybody kicks out of it now too. It doesn't do anything, Don't really need it as much as we see it.
For sure. So that match was cool. Love Axiom and Frazier not splitting up, which is what seemed was going to happen.
Correct.
And we get the split up of Chase U, of Ridge Holland attacking the rest of the members. I'm going to be honest. I don't think we need to spend much time on this because cool. I mean, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Like really like, I'll be honest.
Don't care.
Don't care.
It's a little dry right now. We're gonna be honest, man. We've always said always said in wrestling, like we're just honest about our opinions, and it's dry right now. Again, NXT, WWE, everything is great right now. It's by no means the worst thing I've ever seen, but the NXT tag division, men's tag division, is a little lacking right now. And I was waiting to bring this up. We don't have to touch much on this match, but I think we had even sent out a tweet on C2 Wrestling. Is there going to be any surprises tonight? Again, we got Giulia, but there was a lot of talk around the last couple of weeks of Lucha Bros, Motor City Machine Guns. Seemed a little bit more likely. The Lucha Bros are one thing. They could maybe go NXT for a bit. There's not enough men's tag stuff going on right now that warrants the Motor City Machine Guns in NXT. If those guys are going to come around, they're straight to the main roster ready. And I can even argue it's easy to insert them on Raw. We're going to spin it a little bit. It's going to be a little bit of a Raw point of view. You got Judgment Day tag titles. They're stuck on Judgment Day. They're in this little Damian feud. Damian doesn't have a tag partner. I think it's very easy to have Damian come out and say, like, hey, like, let's say Finn cost him a world title rematch against Gunther or something. It's very easy for Damian to come out and be like, hey, like, I couldn't get a tag partner, but I found a tag team. And, out come the Motor City Machine Guns. Maybe they debut and take the tag titles off of Judgment Day. Listen, this is fantasy booking. It's a little extreme, sure, but there's more teams. DIY. I know Bate is injured, but you got Dunn and Bate. You got Pretty Deadly. A-Town Down Under's got some tension, but there's a lot more teams on the main roster right now for Lucha Bros, Motor City Machine Guns to get involved with. On the flip side, maybe it's what NXT needs. Maybe they need the Motor City Machine Guns right now.
I mean, it's the same thing that I said about Joe Hendry potentially winning the title. I think it's something that if it happens, You do it on your TV, switch to CW. You need to get the viewers in the
Mm-hmm.
CW. I don't think doing it here, although it would have been cool when you're still a month away from your debut on the CW, I don't think a month of the Machine Guns on USA Network and then going there,
Mm-hmm.
it loses it. I don't want to say it loses its allure. It loses its steam.
Yeah.
It's much hotter if it happens at the CW in October and they're
Mm-hmm.
right on TV and you're like, oh well, now I have to tune in to this new. If they debuted tonight and then I see him for a month straight, that first episode, I'm not like, oh well, I haven't seen the Machine Guns yet. Like I've
Yeah.
had five chances to.
Yeah.
And I mean, same thing goes for the Lucha Bros. I didn't really expect them or any of those surprises like that because I've held out this
Mm-hmm.
opinion on the change to the CW.
Agreed.
It would have been cool, but again, I don't think it was necessarily needed. This isn't stand and deliver. This isn't, you know, your money show. It was a very good pay-per-view
Mm-hmm.
or PLE. All of the stories elevated or ended, whatever. I don't think that moment was going to make or break this event.
No, not at all. This event, PLE, again, good show top to bottom, was maybe a bit more of a filler PLE for them. I think Halloween Havoc will have a little bit more merit to it because it is on, say, the CW. And, talking about having, like, say, the Motor City Machine Guns debut before CW, this is like a discussion of the regimes again, the Vince versus Triple H regime, where if this was Vince running the show, I know it's NXT, but still, I feel like it'd be that let's have him debut so we can promote him for the CW. But under this Triple H era, man, he keeps it a surprise. We like it a surprise. So what we want as the fans. I understand that debut CW show might have a little bit less viewers without the promotion of X person, but you're only going to bring in more viewers. You only have a now like wrestling history moment, as we say. Oh man, that time the Motor City Machine Guns debuted on the CW debut, like it's crazy. It's history right there. There's a few ways they could do it. I think it's main roster ready. As for the NXT tag titles, now back on Fraxium, as they're called. Kind of hate that name, not gonna lie. Uh,
Not
what's
their
next for
official
them?
name. Like seems to
Yeah,
be like
yeah,
kind of
yeah. It
like the
seems like a
street name.
nickname. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What's next for them though? Where do they go?
So they are doing the number one contender triple threat tag match they announced. It'll be the Rascals versus Hank and Tank versus who was the last team? Gallus.
Dallas. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Cool. Sure.
it's not the match will be good, the stories will
Mm-hmm.
be good. It's not something where I'm like must see TV. Like I'm going to watch it. I'm going to tune in, but you know, it is not the most, earth-shattering thing.
Yeah.
Same as the NXT Women's North American Championship match. Kalani Jordan defends against Wendy Chu. Cool match, solid match.
Mm-hmm.
Kalani retains. Wendy Chu's story progresses with Tatum Paxley. Again, it was expected, cool outcome. I don't think this is something you have to spend 15 minutes dissecting.
No. I do want to bring up Tatum Paxley, where listen, I got nothing against Tatum Paxley, but what are they doing wrong with her to where she's involved in a lot of these like side stories? She was even in TNA, but like she's kind of a nobody. She doesn't get the reaction out there. Yeah, she's not though. She
I was
came
not
out.
expecting you to say
She's
that.
kind of a nobody right now. But she's been involved in a lot of stuff. Like the name Tatum Paxley, and like she's had all these kind of side stories. But she comes out tonight to no reaction. Nothing against her. I think she's fine, but the fans don't really seem to know her or relate to her. I think they need something bigger for her. And I don't like. I love Wendy Chu. I think Wendy Chu is actually great. But I don't
Yeah, I
know
like
if
Wendy.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know if a Tatum Paxley Wendy Chu feud is it for Tatum Paxley. I think the route they're going is more some like deranged tag team type thing. Will be the ultimate goal for the two of them. But there's no more women's tag titles in NXT, so like women's tag teams in NXT don't really do the trick for me. The Trick
Yeah,
Williams.
and I believe they did
I'm trying to
pretty
draft. If you
a
can stop
pretty.
distracting me.
Oh, wah. I'm pretty sure at Stand and Deliver, didn't she also like come in the crowd and do a distraction? That was the end to the NXT Women's Title match.
Yeah, some
Yeah,
along those lines.
yeah.
Yeah, yep,
She was
yeah.
like she was wearing the hood,
You're right.
whatever.
Yeah,
So it's like I'm not saying we're getting the same exact thing, but I mean, she was in a much higher spot at that point than she is
hmm
now.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so we'll move on. We mentioned Oba winning. We've already touched on the main event. Really, I mean, Giulia debuting, cool. To me,
yep.
Giulia versus um,
Roxanne.
Roxanne. That's main event worthy to me.
hmm Yep. That and with everything they got going on right now in NXT, that is the main event at Halloween Havoc. I'd assume. Again, assuming they save that match for the PLE and don't have Giulia debut on NXT, CW TV, anything along those lines. That is the main event. There's a lot of things going on right now, but the main title picture is not solidified enough to main event over that. Giulia's debut is very hyped up. It's a long time coming with her injury. She was at Stand and Deliver. It's a while back now, especially with the rumors of Delta, Stephanie coming around. There's a lot going on in this NXT women's division. They are really, at least the women's division at a minimum, they're setting up themselves up for success come Mania season. They're going to have so much going on with a lot of new faces. It's great. The men's roster is already a little bit more stacked comparative to the women in NXT. The roster is a lot more green, I'd say. So I think it's great to get these fresh faces in, but they're experienced. I think Giulia is a must have addition, just like Ethan Page was to the men's NXT roster.
They said on commentary that Roxanne is either one away or is tied with Asuka for the most amount of PLE wins for the NXT Women's Championship.
Mm.
So that makes the most amount of sense for a Halloween Havoc where you have not only the story of the title, but Roxanne is chasing records and she's got this absolute beast that we've been hearing about for months in Giulia that
Yeah.
she's got to try to get through to break those records. So I think it makes perfect sense to be the main event of Halloween Havoc, especially if you're going to have the NXT championship defended on one of your shows for the CW. So saving that match for Halloween Havoc, okay, it might feel a little far away, but that to me, that makes the most amount of sense. And I think the last match we got to touch on here is the biggest surprise of the night. And I loved this surprise. Zach Wentz, Wesley, Zachary Wentz defeating Wesley. He comes out with the X Division Championship. Trey Miguel returns. And, haven't seen him in a week or two after the attack from Wesley. Helps Zachary Wentz. The match was what we expected. The match was Zachary Wentz versus Wesley.
Yeah.
Funny moment with the table breaking, whatever.
Yeah.
That was the nice surprise. And where we talked about, oh, it's history. Joe Hendry main eventing an NXT PLE, WWE PLE as a TNA contracted wrestler. Well, we had history before that with Zachary Wentz, a TNA wrestler, defeating a WWE wrestler on a WWE PLE. So all you people out there who've always hemmed and hawed that this relationship is strictly to benefit WWE and they're just going to keep having all their guys beat their guys. They're never going to have I highly doubt a lot of people were picking Zachary Wentz to win tonight, and I loved it.
Yeah, agreed. I absolutely loved it. Don't think many people were picking Zach Wentz to win tonight. I think it's fantastic personally. Zach Wentz over Wesley. Wesley is such a face to me. Even watching the match, Zach Wentz coming out, it's almost like he's the heel to me, even though he's evidently not. Wesley is just such a baby face. It's almost hard for me to get alongside this Wesley heel run so far. But Zach Wentz, man, what a talent. I'm glad he's back. We got a little bit of a reference on commentary tonight to Nash Carter, the old NXT MSK name. it's great to have him back. He deserves to be back on WWE TV. He's a fantastic talent, man. And he's one of those guys I give a lot of credit. When he first came around to NXT, he got himself in shape and he's kept that shape up and he's only improved ever since he stepped foot in the WWE ring. It's glad to see him back this time with the X Division Championship. It really is nuts. Part of me feels a little bit bad for Speedball Mike Bailey losing the NXT, or NXT kind of is the NXT title now, the TNA X Division Championship. It seems like it was almost just to get the title on this NXT show tonight, but fine, I'm for it. He lost it in an Ultimate X match. If you're ever going to lose it, maybe that's the match to lose it in. Zach Wentz, though, man, great match, man. That table spot was funny, but that finish, that's such a great move, man. I could watch that replay just all night.
Yeah, and this is a story that is nowhere near the end. If anything, this is how they probably try to generate heat on Wesley. He's going to maybe he cost the Rascals, either their shot at the tag titles or the tag titles themselves. This is their chance to try to get us to boo Wesley. He's going to have to do something devious to Zachary Wentz, injure him, something, because I still want to cheer Wesley. I just like him that much, and he's just that likable. And it's so rare. I mean, he probably feels great about this, that normally it's hard to get people to cheer you. It's easier to get people to boo you.
Yeah.
To be so likable that it's like
hard to boo.
I almost don't want to boo you. I'll boo you because I'm supposed to, but now's their chance to really generate it. And I think that was the deserved outcome to get to that point. If he beats Zachary Wentz, to me, it's like, how do you really advance the story? You tease him looking at the X Division Championship. Maybe that's the first title crossover. Wesley cheats his way and beats Zachary Wentz for the title or whatever it may be. I feel like there is plenty left with this story. So I thought the match delivered. I thought the story delivered, the story enhanced. And this is something where I'm like, I want to see what's next.
Yes, I absolutely want to see what's next. Wentz and Miguel kind of hinted at coming after Fraxium. I know they're not involved in this triple threat we're getting, the number one contender, but
Yeah, they are.
oh my god, oh yeah, they are. Yeah. What was I thinking? Yeah, they are. That obviously, my whole point was they were going to be set up to be the team to face them for the CW debut. They win this match, or to whatever I was thinking, they weren't in the match. They would eventually become the tag team to face them around the CW show. And I don't know if that's where Wesley gets involved, and I don't know if that's where I want it to happen. I would more so like to see Wesley go after Wentz on TNA. I think this is where you continue the feud, but on TNA. You make it TNA heavy. Maybe they have a little bit of involvement in NXT, but this is where you really showcase the WWE guy, I think, on the TNA show. I think this is where you maybe have the WWE guy win the TNA title on the TNA show. That is big. Having the TNA guy win an NXT or a WWE title, that is bigger, in my opinion. That's the moment I think they're waiting for. So Wesley winning the X Division title from Zach Wentz, I think it's pretty likely.
Yeah, I think it's very likely. And to me, it still feels like we have a lot of big moments coming with NXT. I thought the show tonight was very good, even with some predictable outcomes. Wesley losing to me was nowhere near a predictable outcome. I was very surprised. I thoroughly enjoyed the night, even with a little bit of flat ending, but it feels like a great weekend for WWE. Snowden, I know you're on the clock again, so we'll wrap things up here. It was a great weekend for WWE.
That it
They
was.
have great things coming. We also have great things coming. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it, leave a comment, turn on notifications so you know every time we post. Follow our socials, not our fantasy football teams. Maybe we'll give you an update at some point after the draft and into the season, tell you how we're doing. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at C2 Wrestling _. We're on it all. Follow us. We're always tweeting during these shows or posting, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Absolutely.
Come join the fun. We have so much more to come. Now that I'm on the clock, you can take us home.
Yeah, now that Chris is on the clock, I will go along and say that we might have to set up a GoFundMe to win me back my fantasy football money. Not looking too good after this draft, I don't think. We'll see how it goes. But as Chris said, you know the deal. Like and subscribe. We love this. This has been great for us so far. We want to do more content. We got as much stuff coming at you as we possibly can right now with only ideas out the wazoo. We got a lot coming your way. Like, subscribe, follow all the social media. C2 Wrestling, baby. Mwah.